Hey there, I'm Emgris, I'm from Russia. Today I will show you some kind of a vlog. I'm going actually to the village in Samara region, and I know several stories about this place because like my relatives came from here, from these places, and I thought it would be kind of interesting for you to see the village of Russia and some things that are associated with it. So stay tuned. This village Timashevo was actually founded in the end of the 18th century, and back then this was a very prosperous place. So actually back then there were several factories here and plants. For example, there was this sugar factory, the one where they produced sugar cones. I will try to insert the picture. This place was, as you know, a lot of Russian villages actually used to be really prosperous, wealthy, with lots of plants, factories, production, and this meant that they had money for just growing themselves and being quite nice places. But right now it's in decline because I think almost all of those factories here are closed now. They didn't survive the 90s, they didn't survive the change of the country, they didn't survive the start of the USSR, just because probably you know that during the USSR times you actually couldn't have a private plant or mostly private anything, and probably you know that if something is not private and if it belongs to everyone, it means that it belongs to no one. That's why no one actually cared, and a lot of things were stolen, a lot of things were disrupted and just being torn down mostly.
As I said, this village, this countryside was actually really prosperous during the imperial times. Even during the Soviet times, life was still being really active here. Nowadays you see that it's not abandoned, but still you can see just the remains of what it used to be. And my mother, who was raised here, she actually remembers how this railway station was really crowded. People with their luggage, with their bags were waiting for the train, and you know, sometimes those trains were those steam ones with those big wheels, and the ones that I haven't actually seen working, just in museums. And right now we are standing here like her children and making a video in English for YouTube, and she was here just a little girl in some dress and waiting for her grandparents and parents. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about, how all the generations are thinking about each other and how they are seeing each other. That's the problem of a lot of Russian regions, as we say, glubinka, like villages that are really far from every big city. That big cities are doing quite well right now, but people don't want to live in villages because they don't have any jobs here, they don't have anything to do here, and that's a pity, because actually in the imperial times things were different. Villages were cultivated, people had their own farms, they had their own houses with poultry, with cattle, etc. But during the Soviet times it all just ended. And if you want me to tell you more about what was the reason and how it actually happened, just leave the comments and I will try to make the videos. Guys, stay tuned and I will tell you the story, sort of the legend of local people who live here and them being probably too Russian. That's one of the sites of this village, is called the noise. That's more like the name of this place than just the word. And actually they used to be here the water power plant factory. This water leverage was used for producing energy. Right now, once again, it's not here anymore, and basically it used to be here, and only the noise is left, and every time it's a bit different, but all the years, I've been here since I was really a little kid, I still do remember this noise, and it's always here. I hope you can see how different the levels of water are. So there it's the normal water, river level, and here it's just dropping, and eventually becoming into the noise. That's actually the remainings of the power plant. That was, they say that it was either an explosion or something like that, so it wasn't torn down by the Soviet times or anything like that. It was some kind of an accident. And that's the view on the river Kinel. Do you remember that I mentioned the sugar factory? So actually we managed to get inside its territory. There are several legends why it's the way it is right now, but it seems that it probably is being used but for other industries. So they say that it's now a factory where they produce some cakes and confectionery, something like this. And I really love this building. I mean, now it's abandoned, but yeah, I think you can see it right now. I really love the style of building, and it's pretty sad that right now it's in the state that you can see right now. You know, there was actually a legend that Queen, probably Victoria, she used to have breakfast with biscuits made out of wheat from Samara and drinking tea with sugar that was made here in Timashevo. I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but I really like this legend. Unfortunately, that's what's going on right now with the factory that was actually producing that sugar. Maybe Victoria or any other member of the royal family, maybe they didn't have tea with the sugar, but nevertheless that was a kind of really important plant for this region, and there isn't anymore. One of the probably integral part of any village or pretty any place where people live is a cemetery. And when we're talking about villages and some countryside, actually in this case cemeteries are not as fancy as in the capital or in some big city, because here they're really humble, simple, and they actually look the same. Because in St. Petersburg, for example, if you visit a very famous cemetery, you will see that every tombstone is a real piece of architecture and piece of art. Here it's very simple, very cheap, and it usually looks the same. And the one thing that actually surprised me a lot, and I didn't know the reason why, you can see that a lot of fences and tombstones are actually covered in blue paint. Right now I was surprised that not all of the tombstones are blue, but as far as I remember, like several years ago, all of them were like sky blue. And there are several ideas why that was the case. So one, people say that that's because it's the color of St. Mary. Others say that it's just the color of purity of sky, etc. But there is also one very pragmatic reason for that actually seems to be the case. Just because during the Soviet times there were mainly three types of paints: blue, green and red. And those were the paints that were used for military and for some civil things like painting fences, painting some staircases, etc. You needed to paint somehow the fences in the cemetery, but actually you didn't have much of a choice, so just three colors. And they thought that green and red are not suitable for the cemetery, so they decided that blue is a good choice. And so basically one historian say that that's the main reason, and then that was just a tradition. What is still a mystery to me is why there are this kind of tombstones. I understand this like classical tombstone. I also can guess why they have crosses, and why they have actually stars like probably I can, yeah, now like this, because during the Soviet times you couldn't be religious and you couldn't have a cross. But why are there like pieces like this? That's kind of a mystery to me. Do you have any guesses? Just can you leave your guesses in the comments, because I'm genuinely wondering what's the reason. Guys, I also wanted to tell you a legend or a myth, just a story of those places. So here there is this river, and there was the problem with the bridge, and basically every year this bridge was torn away by the snow. Basically every spring this bridge disappeared, and people had to just make a new one every single year. And it was at the times when there were servants, when there was serfdom, and there was the mention of their like owner or something like that, like a wealthy person living here and having some farms here. And once he decided to move to Moscow, and he had to leave all these people here. And those people were really sad because they really loved this man, but he wanted to do something good for the people that served him for so many years. He left a pretty big amount of money for them to finally make a stone bridge so that it won't fall every single year. But when he left, people decided that they were too sad, and they really wanted to commemorate his memory, and they wanted to, like, not celebrate but just have a drink for that great man. And basically they spent all the money that he's left them for drinks, and there is still no proper bridge. So there is one, but it's still not the one that that man actually wanted them to build. That's really too Russian.
Have you got any questions about Russia? Leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification button, subscribe to my other social media. Links in the description below. See ya!